now so many people want to break into the business, but they're not willing to move to LA. And you are, so you are already going to have a leg up. I would recommend trying to get work on as either production assistant, or a runner on either a TV show. Send out resumes. Look up in the trades to find, in Deadline Hollywood or Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or whatever, production companies, and just contact people, as many people you can, saying, hey, I want to work as a PA. I want to do whatever it takes to be a PA in your show. And now you get your foot in your door. And that already, you're well on your way. If you can get that, you're well on your way.
You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin.
Hey everyone, welcome to Screenwriters Need to Hear This. And today is another Q&A episode.
That's right.
So I left a tile on my Instagram page saying, hey, you have a question, leave it here and we'll talk about it in our podcast. And now we're going to get to it, right, Phil?
That's right. And we got some good questions here. So I think feedback on these Q&A episodes is pretty good. We got the first one we did. We got a lot of people really liked it. And it's another opportunity for people to get in. So thank you all for hearing my note last time and writing your questions on the tile as they come up, not sending them to Michael directly.
Leave them on the tile so we'll all have one nice place so we can answer all your questions and not be redundant and make it easier on us.
Exactly.
So Phil, hit me with the first question.
Let's do this. All right. So Dead Things Breathe. It's an interesting name. Tips or advice for starting your first screenplay?
Well, know what your story is. Like, do you know what you're going to write about? What's your story? Do you understand story structure? Have you studied that? Like, that's my first step, right? Like, because everyone thinks they have a story. Everyone thinks they got a screenplay, but so many people, because they watch TV, they go, oh, I watch a lot of TV or I watch a lot of movies. I know how to do this. And like the analogy I make is like, well, just because you live near the airport and you see planes take off and land doesn't mean you're qualified to fly a plane. So just because you watch a lot of shows doesn't mean you're qualified to write one. So study screenwriting, study structure, and that's your first step. And then outline it, break it on a board into acts, which I teach all in my writing course. And then outline it. And then when you've got a rock solid outline and you're clear on what each scene is supposed to be, and that could take weeks or months, then you start writing it.
Yeah, let me jump in too and say, for a long time, it was like, I just want to get to the writing. I just want to get to the writing. But that is the writing. Like that is the hard part.
Yeah.
And rather than facing a page, and these are common problems I experienced. So if anyone listening to this has experienced this as well, for me, the benefit of Michael's course, it just clarifies a lot of the things that I struggled with. Like I no longer have to worry about what happens in Act 2. I know what's going to happen in Act 2. I know what happens in the first half. I know what's going to happen in the middle. I know what's going to happen in the back half. It does not matter which story it is. And I can make that as fun or interesting as I want. And it can be specific to my characters or not. It just eliminates that concern. So you avoid that painful pit of the middle, the slog and stress of Act 2. And big mistake I made on my first screenplay is I wrote 1 and 2, Act 1 and Act 2. And I thought they were pretty good. And then I got to Act 3 and I had no idea what to do. There's nothing to do there. So the time and energy and effort put into the breaking the story and writing the outline and making sure you understand clearly what you're going to get into makes the writing just fun, because now you're just following the character down their path.
Do the hard work first. Right.
Yeah. Don't do it in the rewrites. Like save yourself 15 rewrites and just do the hard work at the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
Cool. All right. Lindsay Bain. Do you get emotional watching something you have written come to life? Glad I found you. Real fast. Glad I found you. So fascinating. And I'm away to listen to the podcast. So she scampered off to go listen.
All right, Lindsay. Do I get emotional watching it? Well, in the beginning, I certainly did. It was so thrilling to see my words on the screen, and I used to fight for, I got to get my more lines in, and now I get less emotional to my job. Sometimes I don't even watch stuff that I've written. It depends on the show, but most of the time I do.
And then other times you're the showrunner and you've watched it 1,000 times.
Yeah, right. And so, yes. And sometimes, if I'm running the show, I don't even watch it when it airs because I've already worked on it so many times. I've been in the editing room, cutting it, and then in audio, in the mixing session. So, like when it airs, I'm like, I don't even watch it. Then I've already watched it 1,000 times. So, but I don't really get emotional now, I guess. I get more emotional in the writing process of it. as you discover the story.
Great. Winchester D 7973 asks, do you think the era of syndication is dead? How do you think the streaming era has hurt the holiday episode in shows? How far in advance do you write? So there's like 17 questions here, Winchester.
Got a lot of questions.
Why don't we just take this one at a time? Do you think the syndication era is dead? And do you think that streaming? Well, let's just start with that one.
It certainly seems like syndication. That pot of gold that TV writers always wanted, like by creating a hit show, that pot of gold is not, you can get fabulously wealthy. It doesn't really exist anymore. It's very, very rare to have a show like Modern Family where it's like this huge syndication deal. It doesn't really work that way anymore. So if your goal if you want to get a writer, be a writer because you want to be fabulously wealthy, there's probably other career paths for you. Yeah. So how does syndication, how does a streaming work?
It's just, how do you think that the streaming era, well, let me back up on the syndication thing. You posted a TikTok recently where you talked about, hey, here are my residual checks. And you're like, yeah, here's an episode of King of the Hill that I wrote and I made like $25 or whatever. And here's another one where I made $1. It's like, what's up with that? And you talk about how they're kind of reselling their thing. So follow Michael, go check out his TikTok and his Instagram because he talked about that specifically. And just look for the Green Envelope episodes. They're some of my favorite stuff you put out. Yeah, that's at Michael Jamin Writer on Instagram and TikTok. You can find that. Yeah, so when you sell it to streaming, the residual value is much, much less. You get the payout is much lower, and that probably will be the next writer's strike if and when that happens, because I think it's really squeezing writers, especially the middle class writers. So yeah. How do you think the streaming era has hurt the holiday episode in shows? Used to be like, is network television even a thing anymore? I don't know. Is it like, obviously there are shows, but it's not like everyone's watching Friends anymore. It's like, 1 million people on network television is huge now. But 10 years ago, it was like, what? You would be canceled, right? Yeah, be canceled the act break. So the holiday episodes, all that stuff is in streaming. It's not important. As the industry migrates to streaming, it's less important. It's more about binge watching. Hey, let's get the viewer to watch episode and episode, not go to sleep tonight. Yeah. I was thinking, we definitely do holiday episodes on Tacoma FD, but again, that's like a standard cable channel on True TV. Yeah. It's not so like Thanksgiving episode airs during Thanksgiving. The Christmas one from season 2 aired around Christmas time. So. Yeah, it's still a thing, but probably less and less as we go to streaming. Yeah, binge kind of eliminates the need. All right, how far in advance do you write scripts versus when they air? It really depends. I mean, the process of coming up with an idea and then turning it into a script that's ready to shoot can easily be 5 weeks, and then when you got to shoot it, that could take a week, and then you have to go into post production. That's several weeks, and then it airs. So it's a long process. South Park, I know they turn them around real fast because the animation is so crude that they can turn this thing out really fast. But that's a very unusual show. Yeah, it was the documentary 7 days to air, I think. Is that what it is? Yeah, walk you through the whole super process. Fast. It's like crazy fast. For most shows, you're talking about much longer lead time. So, which is why shows you're not making it topical, because by the time it airs, the news has changed. So, yeah. All right. And then do you ever struggle with spoiling things that you've written? Only in the writing process. That's when I spoil it. No, I don't. I mean, no one's asking me anyway. Like, hey, like, what happened? No. What happens in episode 3 of Tacoma FD? I mean, I suppose if I was working on Game of Thrones, that might be a problem. When you're in a giant hit show that everyone in the world wants to know what's happening. But most of us are working on shows that are slightly lower profile than Game of Thrones, which, by the way, how often do those shows come around? Every 10 years? So, Yeah, got it. All right. Auntie Colleen 4 asks, what happens to residuals when a writer passes away? Does it go to their estate, and how long do they last if they do? Yeah, it goes to your estate. I don't know how long it goes after that, but it's the same thing with some people are outraged that writers get residuals, but all authors do, because you're selling the rights, the copyright the rights and your authorship claims. That's what you're selling. So a residual is not like bonus money. It's like you're literally selling the claims for authorship and copyright, and this is how you get your money. So it's the same thing when Michael Jackson writes Thriller or whatever.
his estate gets that money every time someone buys a record or it plays on, on the radio or whatever. And so it's no different. It's authorship. And so, yeah, when you pass, your estate gets it. Now, for how long? That's a good question. Probably until it runs into public domain.
I was wondering if it's copyright law, which I think is currently 72 years, and that changes every few years because of Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. They've extended that. I think it goes, what is it? So anything prior to 1920 is public domain, and that's because of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
And then after that, it's, I think, 72 years after you pass away. So you have
but they keep extending it, you're saying?
Because, Mickey Mouse is so specific to Disney. It's like, how do we make Mickey Mouse public domain, even though he should be in the public domain?
But does that apply to everyone? Does that apply to me, Phil?
I think it applies to everybody. No, okay. It applies to everyone because they continue to push it out. So it's your state owns the rights X number of years after you die, and it's you own that copyright, and they can license that to whoever they want. And I think it's every version of the work. So let's say that, Michael, I think you own the copyright for every episode you write or every feature you write, even if it gets sold or produced. That's a Writers Guild thing. You own the right to the actual production of that script, not necessarily the authorship of the product, right? So you could put out an anthology of all of your scripts in paperback and sell those. But then you could do a different version of that printed with excerpts and footnotes, and then also put it leather bound, and that would be a different work, and the copyright would then start from on that differently.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. So So there's a long answer. So yeah, it goes to the estate. Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Johnny Wink asks, how many specs and or pilots do you suggest we have written before we look for work? How long do you suggest we spend on each script before moving on to the next one?
Well, I don't know about that. But the first part is like, if you're looking for work on a broad Family Guy type cartoon, you want to have a sample that's broad and cartoony. If you're looking for work on a grounded show that's kind of more real, like Barry, which actually gets a little broad at times, but it's definitely more grounded than like Family Guy. Then you need a sample for that. So you need as many samples as tones of shows that you were trying to get. If you want to get a drama, an hour-long drama, you want to have a sample for that. If you want to get a sample of Succession, something in that tone is one thing. Something on the tone of The Great, which is definitely more light, then you need something for that. So you need as many samples as shows that you want to apply to, right? And so how do you? The second part was, how long do I spend on it?
How long should you spend on each one of those?
Until it's good, dude. Because it's I don't know how it depends on you. That's a you question.
Yeah,
it's got to be good as long as it takes.
I had a quick Zoom call. I mean, it wasn't that quick, but it was with actually someone who listened to the podcast, and they reached out to me, and they handled it professionally, and they were just like, "Hey, man, I think we have a lot in common. Our careers have been very similar in Hollywood. Love to just chat real fast with you and just meet up." And so we hopped on a Zoom, and we ended up talking like way longer than I'd planned, and he had a very unique perspective. His name's Kevin. He had a really unique perspective on this. He said, because I brought that up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm to the point now where I write a draft and I hand it out, and people give me notes. I rewrite it and I hand it back. And if they get it and they think it's good, that's good enough for me. Like if it's done and to the point where people are happy with it, I just move on, because there's no more benefit in just beating that."
Yeah, that's another good point. Like the way you improve is not necessarily by keep on polishing the same thing that you've been working on. You'll improve by putting it aside and picking up another project and starting the next project. That process, and then after you do like 6 scripts, you'll go back and you look at that first one. You go, "Oh my God, look how much I've improved."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Jocelyn RTM, do you have any tips or helpful advice for an aspiring television writer preparing to move to LA or during their first years in LA?
Yeah, well, it's good that you're doing that. So because you're now, so many people want to break into the business, but they're not willing to move to LA, and you are already going to have a leg up. I would recommend trying to get work on as either a production assistant, or a runner on either a TV show. Send out resumes, look up in the trades to find, in Deadline Hollywood or Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or whatever. production companies and just contact people, as many people you can, saying, hey, I want to work as a PA. I want to do whatever it takes to be a PA in your show. And now you get your foot in your door. And that already, you're well on your way. If you can get that, you're well on your way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she's asking what I can do now before she moves. Is that what she's saying?
No, she's saying, to prepare and what to do during the first few years. What I was going to say briefly on that note, I had an experience this last season of Tacoma FD where I was an office PA, and I got a phone call, and a very bubbly, gregarious person gets on the phone, and they're like, hey, I'm just trying to figure out, like, do you have any openings to staff? And I was like, oh, how'd you even get our phone number? And she'd done her sleuthing and figured it out. And I was like, yeah. And so I gave her some tips, and I talked to, like, we're here, but she's like, I'm just trying to get that job in the office. And I was like, well, here's what I would recommend you do. And I gave her a bunch of notes. Well, then the next day, the production office coordinator asked me, like, hey, we talked to some girl who says that you had recommended her for a job. And I was like, okay, that's definitely not what happened. But she was throwing my name around. So look, just don't be crappy.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, that's shady. That is shady. You did her a solid, and she thanked you by lying.
Correct. And he called multiple times, by the way, like multiple times over the season. It's not the way to do it. Like, I already got your resume, and I handed your resume in. Right. That's what I did. Yeah. You already got as good of an in as I can get you. And now you're going to use me as a PA to get in. No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. So look, just don't be crappy. I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
And the second part of the question was like, how do I prepare? And I will say, we've talked a little bit about this. I think episode 1, we talk about like why you need to move to LA and something you can do. Definitely, like Writers Guild Foundation. You can now do a lot of the Writers Guild Foundation events online. They're all over Zoom because of the COVID pandemic. So you can be participating in those as if, you walked into the Writers Guild building, took the elevator up to the second or third floor, and then sat in a room with a professional writer and got interviewed. You can do that over Zoom from South Dakota right now.
Yeah.
So do that. And I think that'll help you not only when you're here, but do it there as well.
You're already well on your way. The fact that you're listening to this and have an open mind, you're already well on your way. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. Awesome. And then again, write a good episode. Write a great script.
Well, yeah. So.
Okay, Rob's World 707. Is there any rationale? And I think we talked about this on our last Q&A a little bit. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's, we're talking about it again. Is there any rationale for fleshing out the first few scenes of an episodic pilot enough to get a positive or negative response without giving it all up with no proprietary protection? This is a way of representing multiple ideas and inspiring some back and forth with prospective partners.
Yeah, doesn't sound like a bad idea. Try throw something on paper, see if anybody likes it. Sure.
But I think the note here, is interesting. Like, this is a way of me doing it without giving it all up and without proprietary protection. So again, it's another case where someone's concerned. Someo's going to steal my idea.
Is that what you get from it? I'm not sure if I get from it. But
there are a couple of things here. The first one is like, is there any rationale to doing this without giving it all up and no proprietary protection?
So they're worried about getting their idea
stealing their idea.
It depends who you're showing it to. If you're showing it to the producer who claims he's a producer and he's got his office is in Starbucks and he's very shady about what he makes, or it's just some porn, or it's just, I got this going, but he's never actually done anything. Maybe you don't want to show it to that guy, right? I mean, you could tell if the red flags are going off, if this guy's blowing a lot of smoke and patting himself on the back, maybe that's not the guy you want to show it to if he's selling himself too hard.
On that exact note, I just had this experience in my digital agency where this guy knows one of our clients, and the client's asked him to hop on the phone, and he's created just a horrible mess for us with this client. We're probably going to lose the client. And he would complain about what everyone else was doing and over again. And finally, it got escalated to me, and I had to get on the phone, and I get on it. And the first thing he does is he says, look, I've been doing this a long time. I've had X, I've had Y, I've had Z. And immediately my eyes rolled over because I've been in business and sales long enough to know this guy does nothing. He's a shyster, and he has to prove he's trying to establish himself right away. Real people with authority and power are talking less. They're saying little, and they're letting you do the talking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's exactly, yeah. Right.
So there's that gold nugget right there will save you a lot of pain.
If
and
that person's
frustration.
selling himself to you too much, that's a
You're
red
done.
flag.
Yep,
Yeah.
walk away. Right. Okay. How is writing affected by the actors playing the role? This is by Alan Mark.
Mm-hmm.
How is writing affected by the actors playing that role?
Okay, so I learned this real early on Just Shoot Me. That was just my first staff writing job. I learned that you write to the actor's strengths and you write away from their weaknesses, and that you don't learn that until you start working with the actors, of course. And so, yeah, I just remember like on Just Shoot Me, Steve Levitan saying, "Yeah, this actor doesn't play that color that well, or this actor plays this note better. So let's figure out how to do that." And so, yeah, that definitely informs. And also the character dynamics on Just Shoot Me. Every time David Spade was on the scene on the screen with George Segal, it was gold, and that was never the show was never intended to focus on that dynamic. But because they work so well together, it was always funny. We always wrote towards that.
Mm.
So there's this a discovery.
Hi guys, Michael Jamin here. I wanted to take a break from talking and talk just a little bit more. I think a lot of you guys are getting bad advice on the internet. I know this because I'm getting tagged. One guy tagged me with this. He said, "I heard from a scriptreader in the industry." And I was like, wait, what? Hold on, stop. My head blew up. I blacked out. And when I finally came to, I was like, listen, dude, there are no scriptreaders in the industry. By definition, these are people on the outside of the industry. They work part-time. They give their right arm to be in the industry. And instead, they're giving you advice on what to do and you're paying for this? I mean, that just made me nuts, man. These people are unqualified to give my dog advice. And by the way, her script is coming along quite nicely. And I'm not done. Another thing, when I work with TV writers who are new on writing staffs, a lot of these guys flame out after 13 episodes. So they get this big break, they finally get in, and then they flame out because they don't know what is expected of them on the job. And that's sad because, it's not gonna happen again. So to fight all this, to flush all this bad stuff out of your head, I post daily tips on social media. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Michael Jamin Writer. If you don't have time, 2 minutes a day to devote towards improving your craft, guys, it's not gonna happen. Let's just be honest. So go find me, make it happen. All right, now back to my previous rant.
Cool. All right, Whittington Art. 2 questions you told me to ask you. So I'm assuming there's someone who reached out on TikTok.
Yeah.
What's the longest number of hours you've worked in a week as a writer?
Oofa. If a show blows up, if a script blows up at the table read on Monday,
blows up in not a good way, but
not a good way.
Problem.
Like you listen to this, and it's a disaster, and the network has a ton of notes, and it just doesn't play well. It's going to be a long week. And so I'm Just Shoot Me. We didn't have too many of those, but I remember one time working till 4 a.m. So we started 10, worked till 4 a.m. And that whole week was hard because the script wasn't working, I guess. So that's a long day. That's a long week. But on a multi-camera sitcom, you can easily work till from 10 a.m. to midnight every night. Sometimes you work till 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. That's not uncommon. So I don't know in terms of like what the week was, but I could tell you there were some hellish days in that week.
Yeah. And then lastly, why did you join TikTok with the Italian hand emoji? Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Why? I'm building up my. I need to for a project I'm working on. I need to build up my social media presence. So I need to build up an audience. So what's the best way to build up my audience? Well, just give away everything I know. Just tell you what I know, and all you got to do. I expect nothing in return. All you got to do is follow. That's it. Yep. It's all free. And if you don't like it, you unfollow.
Mm-hmm. Free valuable content. That's how you grow your audience. You just put that out there, provide value. And this goes back to something we talked about really early on, right? The way you progress in anything is just provide more value than you get.
Yeah.
If I can overserve you, I will stick around. That is how you get longevity in anything.
And that's another thing to talk about. It's like people always want like how do I get this? How do I get? Well, the answer to get anything you want in life is to give first. If you give, you will get in return. I know that sounds biblical, but it's not. It is true. Like you give first, and then people feel compelled to give back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But if you ask, "Hey, gimme," forget it.
But keep in mind, not disingenuously. Like you have to give without any expectation you're getting.
Right. That's right.
It's not because the other way it's manipulative, and manipulation is seen it reeks of desperation. There are a lot of things that come out of that. So it has to be 100% pure. I want to serve because it's fulfilling. And anyone who served, it makes you just feel good. The world needs more of that.
That's right. That's right.
There's your Phil rant.
Even like, we talk about, because I get a screenwriting course. It's like, and I say, it's an offering. If you want it, go get it. If not, continue following me here. That's okay. Just follow, just whatever. I have a lot of free stuff I give away. You can welcome as much of it as you want, Yeah,
it's a choice. So everything you're doing right now in your career, wherever you are, South Dakota, Utah, Nevada, whatever, every decision you're making every day is pushing you towards what you want or away from what you want. There's no static. So every time you hop on TikTok and you see Michael pop up and you listen to that TikTok, you have made a vote. You have taken an action towards being the identity of I am a writer. Every time that you scroll past that video because you're bored and you want to do something else, you're making a vote in your identity against that. So you have to decide what you want to do. And I think that's what's beautiful about what you do. Because I know there's a lot of people who look, there's shysters out there who are just ripping people off all the time.
Yeah.
Buy my screenwriting course, buy this, buy that. And that's something I really appreciate. You didn't want to do this.
No.
I made you do this.
Yes.
And because I needed it. And I'm so glad you did. And you literally tell people like, look, hey, don't buy it. Please don't buy it. Like, don't buy it unless you're serious.
Right.
Because you shouldn't be wasting money on this if you're not going to be serious. But if you want to be a writer, invest in yourself. And why buy from some guy who's read 3 books when you can literally just learn everything I've learned, and it's a reasonable price. It's great.
Yeah, I was going to say something to that. Now I can't remember, but yeah, but thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Great. Okay. T. Davis Rad Lab.
I never. Sorry. Now I was going to say. It's funny because the TikTok algorithm is very finicky, and so which is why I always tell people to follow me on Instagram because you'll see a lot more of my content. But on TikTok especially, I find that the videos that I make that are the most helpful, that have the real gold in it, are the ones that have the least views.
Ooh. So what I'm, and this is something I just like, if I could hammer this home. So if you go to Michael's TikTok or his Instagram and you see videos that have lower views, watch those videos. watch those, because those are the ones where you're going to pick something up no one else has.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's strange. I don't, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's all there. Take it. Go get it.
That's awesome. T. Davis Radlab says, interactive content seems to be the way of the future. In the past, some interactive content hasn't worked out. What interactivity do you see being added to the media?
I hope none, because I don't like any of that. I think if you're going to write it, if you're going to tell a story, here's the story. This is not it's not a choose your own adventure. I think if you have a story, tell a story. What is that?
This is called Digital Storytelling by Carolyn Handler Miller. She was my professor in film school. She literally wrote the book on this, and it talks about this process. Look, there's Hamlet on the holodeck. Their books have been talking about this for a long time and how things have changed. And technology is going to make things more interactive. But look, like probably the most engaging parts of any video game you play these days are still the cutscenes. And that is just a mini movie that's being played out for you. So look, it's going to change things, but story's still story.
It's, I don't play a lot of games, so I don't really know. And I know that's what games are. They kind of, choose your own adventure or whatever, but
they're not.
They're not.
They're not. They give you the illusion of that. And that's something that she talks about in this book, is it's set up to make you feel like you have agency, but you're in a sandbox. Right? Like, let's take the game Red Dead Redemption 2. Ridiculously amazing, like beautiful game. And it's a massive world that you can basically go in and do anything. You can rob trains, you can shoot people. There's still a story.
Right.
There's a story. You go in, there's a cutscene, you're told what to do. You have to go do something. Sure, you can make some decisions in there. You still got to do the next step, which is the next part of the story.
Right. So it's illusion. Okay.
Yeah. Some things and elements may change, but you still end up somewhere. And there's different endings to things based off of decisions you made in other places. Still a story. You're still watching.
If I'm telling a story, though, like when I'm writing a story, I want to tell you. This is a story I want to tell you. I don't want you to. figured out what the story. I have a story. I'm telling you what the story is. If you don't want to listen to my story, listen to someone else's.
Yeah. So similar thing, right? In these games, it's like you think you did, but there's 3 stories they're telling, and you just voted for the story you wanted to hear, but they still told you the version of that story they wanted to tell you.
Right. Okay.
Right. You're still getting the story.
Right.
Anyway, do you have any other thoughts on interactivity being added? Like, do you think that you see anything?
I hope not. It would make my head blow up. I remember seeing, like, I love a Black Mirror. Love, right? And they did that one episode which is interactive. It was not my favorite episode by any stretch. I much prefer the ones where
it's gimmicky.
Yeah, just tell me a story. I want to get sucked into your world. Don't make me in charge of your world. You're in charge of the world.
Yeah. All right, and final question for the night here. Liquid Dragon 528. I have a fire script for a movie, but very new to the industry. How do I get it into the right hands? Or any hands for that matter.
Okay. Everyone thinks I got a fire script, except for me. I never thought I had a fire script. I felt I had a lot to learn. So maybe take it down a notch. Maybe dial up the humble meter. But how do I did a whole rant on this on Instagram. I hope you will find it at Michael Jamin Writer. The question you should not be everyone asks, how do I get my script into the right hands? And that is the wrong question to ask. The question you should be asking is, how do I write a script that's so good it doesn't matter whose hands it falls into? And I don't want to repeat myself because I did it the whole talk on Instagram. And go find
podcast episode 1.
Okay, go watch that. Listen to that as well. But you got a ways to go. We got a ways to go. You need to focus on. You're already skipping a step. You're already saying your script is fire, and you're not the one to decide that. Let the reader decide that.
Right. So, and this isn't to beat up on you. You're just highlighting a perspective most young writers have when they're starting out. And so, in the sentence, I have a fire script for a movie, very new to the industry.
Yes. So how do you have?
There's a dichotomy.
I'm brand
here,
new.
right?
Yes, I'm an expert, but I haven't done this before.
Right.
Which one is it?
And that's not to beat up on you, right?
Yeah.
I literally, when I pulled this question up, I told Michael, like, someone literally asked the question, and 20 episodes of this podcast plus ago, we talked about first thing. You talked about weeks ago, and because everyone's asking this thing. And to your credit, Michael, like, you're the only person that I'm hearing say it so clearly. Mm-hmm. Like, just write the best script you can and continue to work on that, and then you will be found. It's not about selling it and how to get a showrunner attached. It's literally just write a really good episode of TV.
Yeah. So Phil's right. We don't want to beat up on you. I don't want to humiliate you, make you feel bad at yourself, but you need to take a step back and focus on your craft, and don't worry about the other stuff. All that stuff will fall into place once you learn how to write a really good script. And I know you think you have it, but I'm telling you, I read a lot of scripts from new writers, like tons of them, and 99.9% of them do not have the fire script that they think they have.
Yeah. And then to just kind of wrap that up, if I may, a common phrase that we say in the business and personal development world is luck is where opportunity meets preparation, right? Can you imagine something worse than having that opportunity to give a script to someone and it's not good, right? Or, hey, having the opportunity to give a script to someone and you have nothing to hand them.
Yeah.
That's worse than spending time working on multiple versions of things. And when they say, what do you have? And saying, what are you looking for?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's it. That's all the questions we got this time.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. And that's it. Stay tuned for our next Wednesday. We drop new episodes every Wednesday.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin and Phil Hudson. If you'd like to support this podcast, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing this podcast with someone who needs to hear today's subject. If you're looking to support yourself, I'd encourage you to consider investing in Michael's screenwriting course at michaeljamin.com/course. I've known Michael for over a decade, and in the past 7 years, I've begged him to put something together. During the global COVID-19 pandemic, Michael had time, and I have to say, I wish I'd had this course 10 years ago. As someone who's personally invested in most online courses, earned a bachelor's degree, and actively studied screenwriting for over a decade, this course has been more valuable to me than most of the effort I've put in because it focuses on something no one else teaches: story. In his course, Michael pulls back the curtain and shows you exactly what the pros do in a writer's room, and that knowledge has made all the difference for me, and I know it will for you too. You can find more information at michaeljamin.com/course. For free daily screenwriting tips, follow Michael on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at michaeljaminwriter. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Phil A. Hudson. This episode was produced by Phil Hudson and edited by Dallas Crane. Until next time, keep writing.